Promoting self-care is a super important part about peer mentoring. So it's not only important for the peer mentor themselves, but for the young adults too. So in promoting self-care, it's important that you're modeling it. So for example, when I started working as a peer mentor, I had a lot of health conditions going on, and I always let my young adults that I was working with know that I had to work part-time in order to give myself enough time to spend on my self-care in order to promote my recovery, becoming more smoother and faster. So that's one way that I've really worked in modeling self-care. It doesn't have to look like that necessarily. It doesn't have to be a bubble bath. Modeling self-care can just be talking about your exercise routine or having fun every week. Something that I've done a lot of in promoting self-care is talking about how important fun is. So fun is one of the most healing therapeutic tools we have, and sometimes when people get stuck in a rut of just going from therapy session to other therapy session to support groups and skills groups, it can kind of be a cycle where you're forgetting to just be a young adult and to be a kid, and that's important for in both roles. So it's important to have time to yourself when you're working, you know, to have the weekend and stuff, and to have fun and to take care of yourself and to model that to the young adults. Another important part of this is to do with supporting the young adults and knowing their rights and advocating for themselves. So young adults I work with, I always make sure to talk to them about things like the accommodations that they can get in school systems or in their work environment. And I've done this by talking about accommodations that I've received through my lived experience. So there's things like you can have extended time on tests in a school system, or extended time on notes if you're at work. So there's just little things like that that make things like working and going to school or whatever someone's path is to be a little more accessible for people who have these conditions. So it's important to make sure that they know their rights, and then to also not pathologize them at the same time, and to make sure that everybody knows that, you know, work and school and life and everything can look really different for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're including self-care as a part of your routine as a peer mentor and as something that you're teaching other young adults that you're working with about, then you should be looking pretty good. I might tell a young adult that I'm going to the gym after our session or something like that, because I find that to be really helpful. Maybe you'll even go on a hike with a young adult just to kind of get the fresh air and to have that healthy activity if that's something that they're interested in. In promoting self-care, it's also important to know that what is my self-care does not necessarily mean that it's looks the same for a young adult. Self-care is different for everybody. Some people like bubble baths, some people like exercising, some people like sorting their laundry. It's totally different, and that's important to know as well, to make sure you're not forcing your self-care onto other people. At school, you can get all sorts of accommodations too, like extended time on tests, taking tests in different locations, note takers and stuff, and without this knowledge, some of these things can seem unattainable. So as a part of promoting self-care, it's important to support the self-determination of the young adults in letting them know that maybe just with the right types of supports and the right types of self-care that they can really be who they want to be. And they're capable of a lot.